So here I am at home, dying from, I'm not even 100% sure. I think it's anxiety, but basically it's caused my stomach to feel terrible. And nauseous at times, but only at times, and then other times I feel fine. But it's like a back and forth. But anyway, I'm bedridden for whatever reason, and not 100% sure what's wrong with me. Well, as you know, Rusty Spork is dead. R.I.P. R.S.P. And I get a comment on Clockwork. You guys remember Clockwork? If you don't, I don't care if you watch or not, because I don't have to advertise for anything anymore because my production company died. And I own nothing. Except the copyright for things. So I guess watch it. But anyway, I got a comment on it from someone who obviously wasn't aware that Rusty Spork has died. And as you know, there's one thing on the channel I don't own the copyright to, and that would be Clockwork. I don't own the copyright to that because it's not my story. Of course, we're not 100% sure on who owns the copyright, because the writer is anonymous, I believe, which happens a lot with online stories that are passed around over and over and over and over and over again. So, honestly, I don't know if I could 100% get in trouble for it. But at the same time, I could very likely get in trouble for it because there might be someone I'm not aware that wrote it. But you know how the internet is. It's a wild anarchy, West Craven nightmare that has no end or beginning. That got really off track. Point is, they left a comment that was like, hey, you should make a movie about the creepypasta called Sally, which, if you don't know the creepypasta called Sally, it's one that I'm less familiar with, but it is one that I know of. I used to be a creepypasta fan back when I was 16, but I'm nearly 20 now, so a lot of them are just kind of small little spots in my head. I'm not a huge fan of them anymore, but I do know of Sally, and the basis of the story is this little girl has a teddy bear. She's abused by her grandpa. She dies, becomes a ghost, haunts the guy. And I know there's more to the story, and a quick read would refresh me, but I didn't prepare for this video because that wasn't the point of what I was talking about. And screw it, because it's not like it matters anyway, because I'm not trying to do anything with these videos. I just make them for me. So if you watch them, get mad at me for not preparing. Honestly, I don't care. Anyway, creepypasta is dead. Dead. It's never gonna really be dead. The website still uploads, but it's not like a huge thing that people care about that much anymore. And most of the time that Hollywood takes the stories of creepypasta, they just annihilate them, such as the Slenderman movie that came out that was so bad that no one went to go see it, when it should have been something we were very excited about, because the internet culture being, held up and made to look important, but then they completely obliterated all of our dreams of that ever happening. Anyway, that's not the point that I'm trying to make. I'm sorry, I'm sick, so it's like my brain's a little knuffled. But point is, this commenter leaves a message telling me that I should make another creepypasta movie, and I'm like, hey, it's really nice to see some support on these old videos, but Rusty Spork is dead. It's retired. If anything, it's only going to come back for the 48 every now and then, but even that's not 100%. That's just a hope and a prayer that maybe everybody will get together once in a while to make something, but honestly, nobody really has time anymore, which is why it died in the first place. But I thought about it, and I was like, hey, it'd be cool and you guys are going to find this cringy. A CPCU. What's the CPCU? Creepypasta Connected Universe. Or Cinematic Universe. Like the Marvel one, but like creepypasta. But you're saying, but Sean, that's a terrible idea. Because we've seen how Hollywood treated our stories in the past, and this one's going to be just as terrible. Even if, they tried, they would all suck. But here's what I say. If we get the internet to make it, maybe it wouldn't be bad. Now, I hear what you're saying. But haven't you seen the Smosh movies? Those suck. And other online creators, ... And you know what I say? You're right. But I don't know. I just feel like, if done right, a creepypasta cinematic universe would be cool. Because the internet is a culture. We live in a society. And we got a lot of ghost stories that we grew up on as an internet babies. And, nobody else really gets to say that because we're the first, to exist in the internet, if that makes sense. I mean, they had the internet, but it wasn't what it is now, and it's very likely it'll never be what it is now ever again, because the internet will evolve into something new. So we're the only ones that kind of get this wild west of internet. Man, it's really hard to make a point when you're sick. Point is, alternate reality shows like that one about Slenderman and other ones. I'm sorry, I'm sick. Ignore me. But listen, okay. If made properly, like with actual time and passion in the project instead of just making a movie to make money like was done with the Slenderman movie. There's been two, but one of them was a low-budget indie piece. Anyway, if passion was put into the work, a creepypasta cinematic universe could be cool because it would be like the new classic monsters, but like our version of classic monsters. Now, I know what you're saying. You're like, but Sean, most creepypastas are just rip-offs of other creepypastas. My rebuttal is, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're so similar, Jeff the Killer, which is a terrible story, right? That no one likes anymore, but we liked at the time that it came out because we didn't understand what good literature was. Spawned an entire genre of psychopath stories. Clockwork was a ripoff. Sally was a ripoff. Jane the Killer was a ripoff. Man, I'm going like way back into my mind of a fandom that's been dead for forever. But the point is, most creepypastas have a very similar feeling. And I feel like that could be built upon to add something to the story. Because, I don't know, creepypastas, as they were, had something special to them that can't really be duplicated or repeated, right? Because you're never going to get anything like them again, save like SCP and the SCP games and stuff like that, which is its whole other monster, which I don't know why no one's tried to make a film out of those, because that'd be a cool television show. If anything, we could have like our own X-Files thing, but with SCP, which, you know, I don't even think their popularity is completely disappeared or dissipated, because I think there's still some... I'm getting off track again. Point is, I think, if done properly, with the feeling that there was in the original idea for creepypasta stories, with professional writing, you could make a really cool universe, right? Before I started making movies, one of the first things I ever thought about making into a movie was a creepypasta oriented movie, because I love the idea of horror. But I ended up scrapping the idea because I ended up enjoying creating my own original stories more than making other people's, fan movies. But as you can see, I enjoy it every now and then. I think 2 of my movies out of everything I've ever created is based on other people's work. But one of those was a school project, so I guess that doesn't 100% count. I'm getting so off track. I'm sorry, guys. I'm literally sick. What I'm trying to say, if I can get to the point, if done properly with the people that are passionate about the project, you actually got people that actually remembered and cared about these projects, like Smile Dog and Suicide Squidward and Jeff the Killer, all these stories, and you actually put them together, and put the time into writing better versions of these stories, which is what I tried to do with Clockwork, which I think worked in some ways. I'm actually very proud of Clockwork. It's one of the few movies that I don't look back at and go, hey, I want to adjust this, and this, because I actually already did that, and I was much happy with the second, with the more recent version of the film, which was just a re-edit. I'm so bad at keeping on track. Point is, again, what I'm trying to say is, if you took, if you actually took the time and you reorganized these stories into something that actually mattered, right? Something that was actually good, and you didn't muck it up for money, like the Slenderman movie that was made by Hollywood, and you actually made something there, and you put a lot of creators together to try to make a universe that made sense, with all of these classic stories. You'd have the nostalgia, which would make a lot of money off of it, so it's not like it's a product that wouldn't make any money. But on top of that, you would also have a lot of interest. But the problem that you have is that the people who make these movies don't care about the product they're making. Because creepypasta is only something that is from our generation. So it would have to be a project that was made by people from our generation. The kids, the 2000s babies that kind of grew up on that, and actually cared about that. And the reason I don't say like the 90s kids is because at the point that creepypasta kind of became something, they were already in high school moving on, and I'm not saying they weren't fans of it, but our generation, specifically the 2000s upward, kind of grew up with these stories, and they were our, around the fire camping, ghost stories or whatever. And it would be cool to have a little something made from stories that are otherwise kind of lost to time, because those stories deserve to be remembered for what they were, because at this point they're kind of gone, and I don't think we could ever do anything to bring them back, unless we made something to inspire others to continue writing stories like that. because creepypasta is pretty much dead. And something like that won't come back because any inspiration to make something like that has kind of been lost through time, because every time we try to make something like that, Hollywood mucks it up. We muck it up. We just destroy the stories until they're useless, and critique these stories that were made by people that were not professionals at all. They were just people that wanted to make a scary story. And we loved those stories back then before we were able to judge them. And now that we're able to tear them apart, it's both good and bad, because being able to tear apart and critique a story can both perfect the story and in some case completely annihilate the story out of existence. And I feel like that's what happened with creepypasta. People realized the problems with it, and it kind of just died. But I remember those stories as a big inspirer for my creations when I was a kid. And even still, a lot of the stuff I make is influenced in a small part by those. At the moment, I'm writing a story that's kind of a love letter to creepypasta. But at the same time, it's a completely original tale. It's not like a fan fiction or anything. It's just written in a similar style, I guess, to kind of the psychopath murders with the weirdness to them. Of course, my stuff's inspired by a lot of stuff because I'm a big enjoyer of psychopaths and stuff. So there's a little bit of Dexter in there, a little bit of Hannibal Lecter, of course, but. These stories are going to be lost to time, and they're never going to be remembered again because they've been torn apart so much. And I feel like unless we do something about that, unless we decide to reinvigorate these stories, make them bigger than they were, bring them back the way we saw them as kids, not the way we grew up and realized they were and how bad that some of them actually were, but what they were to us when we were kids, that actual horror, the smile dog picture going around school and everybody's so scared to look at it because of how disturbing it is. And nowadays we see how cheesy it is, and it just kind of loses that feel. But if we could recreate the feeling that we felt for these stories back when they first came out, back when they were a big deal, and it inspired creators like that alternate reality story, as it's famous. I can't believe I can't remember the name of it. I wasn't a big part of it. I was too young, but it was a huge thing. I could tell you almost every detail about it. A lot of my stuff was inspired by it, but for the moment, I just cannot remember any name of it. I will probably edit in me saying the name of it at some point in this video because I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, if we could bring back that feeling, I feel like that's, what creepypasta really was original creators being given a spotlight for their creations. And it's true. It kind of got diluted. Bad things happened that caused it to become looked down upon, like the two girls and the whole Slenderman cult thing where they took their friend out and hurt her really badly. Luckily, she's still alive. But I remember after that, people were really hesitant of creepypasta. But the one thing we got to remember is it wasn't creepypasta's fault, right? A writer doesn't want that kind of thing to happen in real life. They're writing fictional tales for the point that they're fictional, so you can enjoy a world that you wouldn't actually want to happen or live in. I mean, maybe there's some writers that are demented, but you get what I'm saying. Creepypastas have been put in a bad light because of bad creators, real events, and critiques that are 100% accurate. The stories aren't good, some of them. the original, Slenderman stories, I think they had something. They're still creepypastas that I think about now, probably covered up by layers of nostalgia, and I still imagine them as just as horrifying as the day I first read them. But they've been diluted to a point where they've kind of fallen off the radar, and I feel like it's a good time to bring them back with the passion that they truly did deserve, that was lost for, multiple reasons over time. Because creepypasta stories was the first time the internet kind of decided to create its own thing. If I'm remembering properly, they originated even before YouTube became what it is. It was the first, creepypastas have always existed as long as the internet has, because people always have a story to tell, and the internet makes a wonderful place for people to get those stories out there. So I guess what I'm trying to say, and all my convoluted ways of saying the same thing, is any kind of project that were to bring creepypastas back, in my opinion, a connected universes of sorts would be a really cool way to do it, because it's a really big thing right now. It'd be an awesome thing to buy off of. But if anyone's going to steal the idea, at least have people that are actually passionate about the projects to do them. But anything that were to bring, that life back to a simpler time might inspire a bit more with, everything else that's going on around the internet. Because at the moment, we're kind of losing sight of what the internet means to us. Because what it means to me almost doesn't exist anymore. The internet is a place of free creativity, free realm, free good or bad, just free. And hey kitty, it's not really that anymore. And I feel like something showing what the internet was might inspire us to fight back a bit harder, because we're losing. We are losing the battle for the internet, one piece at a time. And it's not for lack of trying. But as long as we can still create, as long as we remember what brought us to where we are today, whether that be weird gamers or horribly disturbing tales made by people who don't know how to write stories, whatever we can use to remind everybody why we joined the internet, why this became such a big thing in the first place, why there's millions of websites with millions of different people thinking millions of different things, and for some reason it's a huge worldwide community. If we can make anything that represents what that was, I think the internet needs to make its own big project. I think that'd be cool, to see everybody work together on something that matters. And I'm happy to be a part of it. I no longer have the ability to make something like that. I wish I would have thought about it years ago, because it's a cool idea. And I did think about it. But, I'm a free creator too. And I moved on to my own stuff. But the internet is still a community. And I think it's important that we remember what got us here in the first place. However cringy and stupid that may seem to people, it's important to remember that. And I don't know. I was inspired to just talk about this crazy idea of some new big thing that could exist because of a little comment. That reminded me of a time before now. Made me happy. And maybe it is crazy. Maybe creepypastas are stupid and the pointless, and there's no reason to go back to that. We're creating new, bigger things that kind of outnumber and are much better than, where we started. And that's a good thing to think too. But, I don't know. Maybe a little reminder of what got us to where we are wouldn't hurt. Maybe it would reinvigorate people to actually care. Because this was our internet. Started that way. We made it ourselves. We put this place together. brick by brick, each and every one of us, in our own way. Everybody has added something new to this platform in one way or another. Whether it was just a simple comment on a video or a huge channel with over 100 million subscribers, or a website for weird, creepy neckbeards in their mother's basement who make, memes on 4chan, whatever that might be. Every single one of us are the forefathers of what this place is. And I think it's good that we don't forget where we started so we don't lose track of where we end up. This is the first place that, we made. It's not a country. It's not, no war can happen here. No destruction, no peace, nothing. No, it's a community that is impossible yet exists. It's a civilization that shouldn't, but does. And that's cool. And my internet started with creepypasta. It's just where it started. Creepypasta and Minecraft. And those things seem silly and outdated now. But I wouldn't be where I am today, making movies, going to college, trying to become a director without those two things that were so small and insignificant. They made a big difference to me. So if they matter to me, I know they matter to a million other people. Maybe more. So, yeah, that's my little thought. I think I might start doing these little rants every now and then. Just because, why not? Screw it. I belong on the internet too. Everybody does. So, yeah, hopefully I don't take up all the space on my phone. Maybe I'll get myself a good camera. I've been wanting a camera for years, so maybe I'll buy one. That means an hour has passed. Not on this video, luckily, but an hour has passed in real time. And I'm still sick. And I decided to make a video about creepypasta that nobody ever talks about because it's irrelevant and it doesn't matter. I promise I don't live in my mom's basement, and I promise I'm a productive member of society. Can't prove it, but I promise. Thanks for listening. And Disney, if you're interested in an idea, you can have it. I have plenty more stories to tell. I don't need that one. Just thought it was a cool idea. And you buy everything else anyway, so why does it even matter? That was all I had to say. You can go now. I'm not talking anymore to you. I'm gonna lay back down and die some more. Thanks.